UFC Fight Night Saudi Arabia, Adesanya versus Imavov, and I'm gonna go over the whole card, starting with Israel Adesanya versus Nasruddin Imavov. I'm so glad I got my pick wrong. Nasruddin Imavov KOs Izzy in the first 30 seconds of round two. After a little bit of a controversy, he did have an eye poke, but you're not Pereira, buddy. But Izzy was doing good in the first round. He actually won the first round. He was looking pretty good. He was defending all the takedowns. He looked good in the clinch, but his chin's gone. I mean, he's getting older. He's getting up there, but he looked good. He let his guard down for a second, and just the two right over the top sat Izzy down. And the follow up shot when he was against the cage is what really hurt him badly. And then he just got ground and pound to a TKO. And now we have this weird state of the middleweight division where we have a logjam because Nasruddin Imavov needs a title shot. Hamzat Chimaev needs a title shot. And Strickland and DDP are about to fight. So it's like two people need a title shot at the same time, and we're about to have a title fight. So I don't know what they're gonna do with Imavov. I guess he can. I guess what can happen is the winner of Strickland versus DDP will fight Hamzat, and then the loser of that fight will fight Imavov because he's gonna have to wait probably a year. He'd probably have to sit a year, maybe more, till he has his next title shot because he has this one. There's this one, unless the winner fights three times in 1 year, which is I would doubt because DDP fights relatively often, and so does Strickland, but not in Strickland's recent career. Strickland has, he's been sitting out for the belt. He's been sitting out for his title, but maybe once he gets the belt, he'll fight soon. But yeah, but there's this weird situation at middleweight where there's two people that have a deserved title shot. On to the next fight, MVP versus Shira Magomedov. I also got this pick wrong. Uh, did I? No, did I? No, I think I got this pick right. I did think I did. I did pick MVP to win this fight, and he did good. He has the best striking in the UFC. He's the best at distance management, and it definitely showed in this fight. It wasn't a very exciting fight. None of these fights really on the card were really exciting except for Vinicius Oliveira versus Said Nurmagomedov. And I think that was really it. There wasn't really any other exciting fights, but you know, MVP looked good. He looked great, but he said he's going back down to welterweight. He said he's the captain now as well. But yeah, this was a boring fight. MVP usually has boring fights unless he gets the KO in the first round. But yeah, he looked good. He looked like the best striker in the UFC, behind maybe Pereira, but yeah, but he still looked really good, and he won the first two rounds. I don't know about the third round. He did good in the third round, but I don't know. Like you can give that to Shera, but yeah, he definitely 100% beat Shera Magomedov in this fight, handing Shera's first loss. And I really want to see Bo Nickel versus Shera Magomedov. That's what I want to see because he is an OV, even though he doesn't have great wrestling. But I would still like to see Shera versus Bo Nickel. I feel like that would be a decently entertaining fight. On to the next fight, Sergey Pavlovich versus Jairzinho Rosenstruik. This, as you can see, if you just look at the stats, this fight was incredibly boring. Sergey Pavlovich went from this dominant first round knockout artist to the last two fights being boring as hell. This one was boring as hell. There was barely any standing up on the feet. As you can see, there was 6 minutes and 17 seconds of control time. He just laid on Jarzinho and just hit him with pitter patch strikes. There wasn't really much power in what he was landing on the feet. He was just holding him there, and it was just boring. This fight was boring. You begin to tune out of it a little bit, but that's all I can really say is this was a boring fight. And on to the next. Said Nurmagomedov versus Vinicius Oliveira. This was the fight of the night. And this shows that Vinicius Oliveira is really good, but one thing that showed in this fight is their gas tanks are not very good. In the first round, Said Nurmagomedov was looking amazing. He was piecing up Vinicius Oliveira. Like it looked like he made Oliveira look like he had no idea what he was doing on the feet. Hit him with a spinning back kick to the face. Was piecing him up the whole round. But towards the end of the first round, he started to fade. And in the second round, Said Nurmagomedov was completely gassed. This man has no gas tank, and he didn't have the will to push through his tiredness. Vinicius Oliveira was looking tired too, but he didn't look defeated and broken. He was still fighting hard and swinging with everything he got to because he wanted to win. And Said was throwing back too, but he'd just throw back one shot, or like you just try to make something big happen. He would just throw a spinning back fist, or he would just throw an insane overhand right. He wasn't really picking his shots as Vinicius was when he was tired. But this was a really good fight. I did enjoy this fight. This was probably the best fight on the card. This fight should get fight of the night, and it showed also that Said Nurmagomedov's weakness is 100% grappling. I mean, he was just getting taken down relatively easy by Vinicius Oliveira, and showed that Vinicius Oliveira has pretty good wrestling, pretty good takedowns. He didn't have the best entries on his takedowns. Said Nurmagomedov definitely had better entries on the takedowns he attempted, but he only got he went 1 for 9 on takedowns, and Vinicius Oliveira went 3 for 5, and he had a lot of control time over Said, especially when he was getting pieced up in that first round. He was resorting to his wrestling, and he was taking him down. He was slowing down the fight, and he definitely gassed Said with his wrestling. And I don't I want to who do I want to see Vinicius Oliveira fight? I think I want to see him fight like a number 15th ranked, number 14th ranked guy in the bantamweight division. Maybe see him fight a Kyler Phillips who just came off of a loss to Rob Font, or maybe I don't know, one of the Basharat brothers. But I don't know. I feel like he deserves like a top 15th ranked opponent, a Kyler Phillips, a Montel Jackson, a Marcus McGee. But I don't really want Marcus McGee fighting down. So, but I think Kyler Phillips, he should fight Kyler Phillips, who's coming off of a loss to Rob Font. So I feel like that would be a good matchup for Saeed. Just I even said in the last video, and I should have picked Vinicius Oliveira. And I kind of what I said actually, this I called this fight very well. Actually, I didn't because I said Said was going to smudge him into the ground, but I did say Said was going to have full control over the first round. In the second round, he was going to be beating him in the first half, and towards the end of the second round, that's when Vinicius Oliveira was going to pick it up, and then in the third round, he was going to get taken down again. But man, I don't know. Saeed, he needs to to fight the ranked 20th ranked fighters in the world where he does best, because every single time he gets a actually good, decent. I mean, all the fighters he's fight are good, but a jump up in competition, he just loses every single time, and it shows how bad his gas tank was. He's kind of like a Zabit at bantamweight. He has really good striking, but he has dynamic striking, good striking, but his cardio just isn't there. He can't keep up that pace. He can't maintain what he does in the first round, even into the second round. In the second round, he gets gassed. So yeah, on to the next fight. Fares Zion versus Mike Davis. Fares Zion looks so super good, super improved. I mean, he beat Mike Davis. Like this fight wasn't even really close. In the first round, Mike Davis looked a little weird. He instantly shot a takedown and then pulled guard, which didn't really make much sense to me. But yeah, he pulled guard in the first round, and I was kind of confused as to why he did that. He wasn't looking like himself. He wasn't looking like the fighter he'd fought last. The fighter he was in his last fight against Natan Levy, I believe it was. But he still looked good. Once the second round hit, he did pick it up. But Fressian was just too much for him. He had really good takedown defense. I mean, I don't know what changed over the last few fights, but early in his career, he was like a twig, and you could just take him down easily. He wasn't very strong, but now he seems extremely strong, extremely hard to take down. He even picked up Mike Davis at one point in the second round and slammed him down. And he's had really good control time over Mike Davis too. There was one point in the second round, I believe, where Mike Davis had this calf slicer on him, and it was super deep. And I have no idea how his knee didn't explode. It was in this awkward, terrible position for like 2 minutes. I genuinely have no idea how his knee didn't explode. His knee needs to be studied, because if Derrick Rose had that knee, he'd be on a Hall of Fame level career right now, because it was in such an awkward position. I thought at any moment, if he tried to scramble, that his ACL was going to snap in half, but it didn't. He cut Mike Davis open in the second round, and he was looking really good. And even in the third round, Mike Davis picked it up, and there could have been an argument for it that Mike Davis won, but that was the only argument really you can make for Mike Davis winning a round. And Mike Davis cut him open, but it just wasn't enough. And Freziam looks good. I think he also should get a top ranked fighter in the lightweight division. Maybe a fight against Benoit. They are both French. Maybe we can put them on the French card because Benoit did get destroyed in his last fight, and I'm pretty sure he's still ranked in the top 15. He's probably like around 13 to 15 or something around there. So I think he can get a fight against Fares Ziam. I feel like that would be a pretty good matchup, and I feel like that it's a winnable matchup for both of them. But yeah, on to the next fight. Muhammad Naimov versus Khan Ofli. And this just, I mean, this fight, it was just basically, this is basically just Khan Ofli. He's too small to be a featherweight. He was getting bullied around by Muhammad Naimov, and he looked decent at times. He looked like he had decent power. I feel like he could be better if he moved down to bantamweight because he did seem to show that he had some power here. But Muhammad Naimov he was kind of bullying him. He he stunned him or he dropped Khan Ofli really bad at one point in the fight, but it wasn't a very entertaining fight. And none of the fights were, but Muhammad Naimov looked good, looked like himself. He didn't actually cheat in this fight, which is insane to say. I know, Muhammad Naimov not cheating in a fight. I know it's crazy. He didn't cheat in a fight, but he actually didn't. He looked good. I don't know if you give him a top 15 opponent because he did just lose to Felipe Lima. Maybe give him someone just outside the rankings. But yeah, it was a boring fight. There's not really much to say about this fight other than he was outmuscled and he could get his takedowns easily. But Khan Ofli didn't get a single takedown on him. Every takedown was stuffed by him. Next fight, Shamil the Blob Gaziev versus Thomas Peterson, and he put him out pretty bad. He hit Peterson with the right hand right on the jaw, walk off KO, sat him down badly, and Shamil he did look improved in this fight. He did look like he was slimmer and not as fat as he was at his other fights. And I feel like you give him a step up in competition. I feel not a step up in competition. I just feel like you give him someone higher in the rankings. I don't know why he was fighting Thomas Peterson, which is someone who lost to another fighter on this card. I don't know why. If you're gonna match them together, you're gonna match them together, and I'm gonna talk about that fight soon because that fight pissed me the fuck off. But yeah, Shamil Naziev knocks out Thomas Peterson in one round, walk off KO. Give him a tie to Ivasa. Give him Marcos Rodrigo de Lima. Give him a. I don't see give him Derek Lewis. I see him. You can see him getting KO'd by Derek Lewis, but give him a a top 10, maybe a top 10 or just outside the top 10 ranked fighter. Give him a tie to Ivasa. Next fight on the card: Terrence McKinney versus Demir Hadzovic. Terrence McKinney looked good, man. Even though it was in the first round, he all of his wins come in the first round. I think he has maybe one win in the second round, but Terrence McKinney looked good, even though it doesn't really matter because it's against Demir Hadzovic, who's terrible and shouldn't even be inside the UFC. But he absolutely dominated Demir Hadzovic. He was rocking him on the feet, and then Demir tried to shoot a takedown. It got reversed, and Terrence McKinney ended up on top, and they just began to pummel Demir Hadzovic with elbows and shots to the side of the head. Some of them were a little bit on the back of the head, but not really. Demir Hadzovic was kind of turning into the shots, but he looked really good. I don't think he'll be anyone ever good in the UFC because he's just dumb. To say it nicely, he's not a very smart fighter. He just comes out blitzkrieg, no Bryce Mitchell in the first round, just throwing caution to the wind, exposing all of his gas tank. But yeah, just give him another terrible fighter in the UFC. Let me think. Who's someone who's not good at lightweight? If he's still under contract, give him an Ottoman Azaitar or Rolando Bedoya. Who else could he fight? Who's absolute garbage and still in the? Give him a Drakkar Close. Give him a Drakkar Close fight. But he actually has some skills that he probably lose to him. But give him someone who's trash and he can actually beat because he cannot beat good fighters at this point in his career because he's just not. He's UFC level, but he's very bottom of the barrel UFC level. The only reason he's still in the UFC, I'd say right now, is because he has a name and he does finish fights in the first round. He never has a boring fight. He's finish or get finished. He finishes someone or he gets finished every single time. I don't think he's ever seen the scorecards in his entire career. So yeah, on to the next fight. Oh my god, this WMMA fight. These women they're good. Jasmine Jasovicius she's way better than Myra Buenasilva. Myra Buenasilva is terrible. I mean, I said it in my prediction video. I think Mayra Bueno Silva is a terrible MMA fighter. Her only advantage is her strength, and she was getting out muscled by Jasmine Jasudavicius, easily getting controlled, easily getting taken down. She offered no resistance. I don't know why she moved back down to flyweight. She's never looked good at flyweight. She always looked best at bantamweight, so I don't know why she moved down. It clearly affected her cardio even more than her cardio had already been trash at bantamweight. I don't know why people picked her. I knew she had zero chance to win. Jasmine Jasudavicius is pretty good, but that's for a WMA fighter. She has terrible striking. Her striking is awful. It looks like she's pawing at the person. She doesn't have snap on her punches. They don't come off straight. They all her punches are like looping or slapping punches. She's terrible, but she's not as bad as Mayra Bueno Silva. This card was trash. On to the next fight. Bogdan Grad versus Lucas Alexander. In this fight, I'm not gonna lie, Lucas Alexander, as always does, he has good striking. He looked great in the first round. He was rocking him. He was rocking Bogdan Grad, but Bogdan Grad is in a polite way, he's kind of an ogre type fighter. He kind of has this block. He doesn't have a blockhead, but he has an insane chin. He has a hard noggin, so he doesn't really get rocked by anything. And Lucas Alexander looked good in the first round, but then Bogdan in the second round picked it up, was taking him down, and was just kind of beating him up from there. And he just pummeled him and pummeled him, landed some good elbows on him until the ref had to step in and stop the fight. I knew Lucas Alexander wasn't going to win this, but he looked a lot better than I thought he would. He actually did pretty decent, but he's not good. He needs to be cut from the UFC. He's lost too many times. I think he has one win in the UFC. Get him out of here, coach. And then the card opener. Hamdi Abdel Wahab versus Jamal Pogues. Before I even get into what happened in the fight, I hate how the UFC commentators and everyone was talking about Hamdi as if he had this long layoff, like he was injured or something. No, he wasn't fighting because he popped for steroids, got a suspension, and then while he was suspended, popped for steroids again. Why was he allowed in the UFC, back in the UFC? Why was everyone talking about him like he didn't pop for steroids? They're acting like he was had a long layoff due to an injury. It's not why he was off. He was doing steroids. He's a steroid cheat, and he lost this fight. This fight was incredibly boring. It was incredibly boring. It wasn't the most fun fight. It was actually a decent scrap. People are over exaggerating how boring it was, but there is no way Hamdi Abdel Wahab won this fight. Jamal Pogues won this fight. He looked actually really good. Of course, he has fast hands. His jab was looking good. His straight was looking good. And Hamdi, I will not lie, Hamdi Abdul Wahab looked really good, really fast in the first round. His quick scrambles in the first round when he was taking down Jamal Pogues looked really good. But after that, he was completely gassed and tired, and he wasn't really offering much resistance on the feet. And this is partially due to this loss is partially due to Jamal Pogues. He did leave it into the hands of the judges in Saudi Arabia against a Muslim fighter, which you can never do. If he just landed a few more, like two or three more punches against Hamdi Abdul Wahab in the second and third round, he would have won this fight because it would have been undeniable. But just because of how he didn't marginally, he outstruck him, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for the judges to be like, yeah, we have to pick against the Muslim fighter. So for that, he got absolutely robbed. I don't think it was 30-27. That judge is on crack. But it was definitely 29-28, rounds 2 and 3 to Jamal Pogues. It shouldn't even been close. He was hitting him with head kicks. He was hitting him with jabs. He was hitting him with 1-2s. Yes, Hamdi would catch him with the occasional hook, but it was after he would get hit with 3 jabs, 4 jabs in the right hand, and a head kick. And Jamal Pogues was also landing a lot of leg kicks in this fight. A lot of leg kicks. He was doing good with the leg kicks. He was hitting with the lead outside leg kick. With the outside leg kick to the Hamdi's lead leg, like throughout the whole fight. But Hamdi was also landing leg kicks, but neither of the fighters, I guess they're just too fat on their feet and have too bad of footwork to know how to check a kick. But Barely any of the kicks were checked in this fight, but as I'll say, Hamdi Abdelwahab did not win this fight, even though you can see on the screen it says he won. He did not win this fight. He should not be in the UFC. He's a steroid cheat. I wouldn't be surprised if he's still on steroids. Maybe he's not on EPO because he was definitely on. Maybe he's not on EPO, but he may be on steroids, just not as many for this fight because he's fat, but he's not super fat. Like you can see the muscle on him. Jamal Pogues did look a little bit more muscular in tone this fight, but he's still a fat blob. Hamdi's cardio is trash. Jamal Pogues is a good fast boxer. He got robbed. I'm tired of the UFC going to these countries, going to the I'm tired of the UFC. I'm tired of the UFC going to these foreign countries because, especially the Middle Eastern countries, because every single time they go there, there's some robbery, there's controversy on the decisions, there's controversy from the ref every single time. I don't get it. I don't understand. Can we stop going here? I know, Dana, they're paying you a lot of money. I know. But the crowd atmosphere is terrible. We already have people barely show up to prelims in our home countries in the United States. No one shows up for the prelims here. There was nobody in the stands for like the first 3 or 4 fights. After that, they started coming in, and even when there's a good fight going on, it's like quiet. You can hear a pin drop. There's no excitement. The crowd is dull. The crowd is dead. And then when we get to the scorecards for a close decision, there's robberies. I'm surprised that the MVP fight versus Shera Magomedov didn't end up being a split decision. Because, yes, he was outstriking him, but it wasn't like he just blew him out the water with his striking. He outlanded him minutely throughout the 3 rounds. With the third round being the round he did the best in. I'm tired of it. It needs to stop. Dana, please stop going to Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi. Because then we end up with cards like UFC 312 where they're absolute shit. And there's only 3 good fights in the card. The Topuria fight, not even because he's that good, it's just because it's Topuria. It's Topuria's older brother. And then his opponent is someone that Alexander Volkanovski trains with or knows, so he's gonna be in his corner. So it's like Topuria versus Volk. And then if there's that fight, there's a Zhang Weili fight versus Tatiana Suarez, and then the Strickland versus Dricus fight, which really should be Strickland versus Hamzat. Oh my god, the Saudis are. I thought they're ruining the sport. Just their environment is bad, and all the promotions suck up to them. Dana White sucks up to them and gives them the best cards and leaves Australia and the United States with shit. Right, I'm out.